What are the basic lenses you need for landscape photography? Do you really need the so-called Holy Trinity? And why would you choose a 16mm lens over, say, a 50mm lens? And are telephoto lenses actually useful for landscapes? In fact, why do you need different lenses at all? Well, we're off to a beautiful spot on the edge of the Victorian High Country to find out. Okay, so there are essentially 4 reasons why we choose different focal lengths in photography. And those reasons are composition, perspective, reach, and compression. So composition relates to what we want to include in our image and what we want to exclude. Obviously, the wider the lens, the more that's included in the image, and the longer the lens, the less is included in an image. The second thing is perspective. Wide lenses tend to distort items the closer you get to them, and as you tilt down, items that are near the top of the frame tend to stretch, and as you point upwards, items that are in the foreground tend to stretch. The third reason is reach, and this one's pretty obvious, of course. If you have a wide lens, then items that are sort of in the mid and background are going to appear a lot further away. Whereas with a long lens, of course, you can reach in and grab items that are further away and bring them much closer to you. And the third one is closely related to that, which is compression. And it's one of the reasons why I love long lenses especially, is the way they compress the items in a scene. So they bring the items in the foreground, the midground, and the background closer together. They sort of squash them together, creating this nice compressed effect. And a lovely byproduct of that is it also tends to exaggerate shallow depth of field. So if you have something in your foreground and midground and background, and you focus on what's in, say, the midground or the background, then what's in the foreground is likely to be blurry. Conversely, if you focus on something that's in the foreground, that will be nice and sharp, but your midground and your background are likely to be blurry. And you can create lovely effects with this, of course. It helps you to isolate a subject and draw attention to it. In landscape photography circles, you often hear talk of the holy trinity of lenses: an ultra-wide zoom, a mid-range zoom, and a telephoto zoom. And it's true, if you have 3 decent zoom lenses, you can cover just about every situation in landscape photography. I think you can get away with 2, but supplement that with 1 unique lens. On the fence here next to me, you can see Canon's RF 14-35, a recent addition to their lineup, along with their 70-200 f4, also a recent addition. They're both f4 lenses. And I'm a huge fan of these 2 lenses because, unlike their 2.8 counterparts, they're much lighter, they're much more compact, and they're much easier to carry around all day long, which of course is what you want for landscape photography. You don't want to be carrying really heavy glass if you don't have to. And if you look at some of the most accomplished landscape photographers, you'll find that many of them get by just fine with 2 lenses, and more often than not, they don't choose the fastest glass. Yes, they choose good quality glass, but more often than not, they'll choose 1 step down from the fastest option, which is exactly what these are. And they're wonderfully compact lenses. I mean, I've got the lens hood on the 70-200 right now, but without that, it's a very compact lens. And so it's easy to pack away in your bag, and it's easy to carry with you. But there's a third lens that I think you should seriously consider, and that is the trusty 50. I would highly recommend getting yourself a decent prime lens. I've talked before about the value of having a quality prime lens and all the things that you can do with it and how versatile they are. What I thought I'd do is I would take some photos with each of these 3 lenses, and I might substitute the 70-200 with Canon's RF 100-400, which is another lens that I really, really like. And if you haven't seen my review on that, then you can check that out up here. I'm going to take shots with the ultra wide, and I tend to like to shoot at the extremes of each focal length, so I'll probably shoot the 14 to 35 at 14. I'll shoot some shots with the 50, and I'll shoot some shots with the 70 to 200, and maybe also the 100 to 400. And let's see what we get out of those. All right. Don't fall off. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the 14 to 35 and shoot it at 14 mil. I'm going to shoot this tree in front of me, and the light's not ideal because we've got a mixture of direct light on the top of the tree and dappled light on the main trunk, on the trunk of the tree. But just for the purpose of demonstrating how these different focal lengths look, let's knock off a few quick shots with the 14, then the 70 to 200, and then the 50. All right. So this is the field of view that we get with the 14. It's pretty wide, and I'm only 10, 12 meters away from it, and yet don't have much trouble getting almost all of the tree in the shot. Now we're going to shoot 70 to 200, probably at 200. Actually, I do one at 70 and one at 200. Oh, that's nice. Actually, now I'm going to zoom into 200 on that branch, and that's quite interesting actually. Now let's bung on the 50 and see what that looks like. Alright, let's see what kind of perspective this gives us. Alright, so this is the kind of perspective that I get with the 50. And the thing I love immediately about the 50 is just how natural the perspective looks. Straight away it just looks like reality. And we're always so intent on distorting reality with photography, making things ultra wide or zooming in ultra tight on things, compressing the perspective, and all these things are nice, but sometimes it's just nice to see things as they actually appeared to your eyes. Alright, so I'm going to take a couple of quick shots with this, of this lovely tree. Okay, I just realised all this time that I didn't have my my mic on under my jacket here, so if the audio is a bit ordinary, I apologise. Luckily I have backup audio on top of my R6, but it might not be as good as it should be. But now I'm wired up, ready to go, and this is a pretty awesome scene. Let me show you what it looks like. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. It is an absolutely beautiful valley of rolling green hills. And you can see the way the light plays on them. It's really quite beautiful. I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to start with a longer lens, because at the moment we've got a lot of contrast. We've got lots of hills in shadow here, and we've got hills in the distance being lit by the sun. So let's start off with the ones that are lit by the sun first. I can zoom in on those, and then we'll put on the wider lens as the light sort of evens out. So I'm going to start with the 70 to 200. All right, let me show you again what we're looking at here. Okay, now you get a much better idea of what we're looking at. So that's at 70 mil. Let's go all the way to 200. You can see why I like long lenses so much. The way you can just pluck out these little elements of a landscape. All these beautiful shadows being cast by the setting sun. Alright, so time to stop waffling and take a couple of photos. There's no clear subject here. This is, again, just kind of test photography. It's very hard to shoot a video explaining something and grab some nice photos that are sort of portfolio worthy at the same time. Now, let's slap on the 50. All right, let me give you an idea of what we see here. All right, so this is what we see with the 50. You can see how much contrast there is here between the foreground and the background. now that we're in shadow and that is still being struck by the setting sun. But how beautiful is this place? All right, let's get a photo. Let's go over here where we've got a bit more light. Maybe get a silhouette of this tree. Let's do that. Why the hell not? It's a free bloody country. And let's do one more shot. And then I've got to slap on the 400 and let's see what we can get with that, because that is an awesome lens. All right, now let's slap on the 100 to 400 and zoom right in and see what we can get with that. Oh yes, lovely. Let's get you down to f8. Hello birdies. All right, so first I'm going to show it at 100. I forgot which lens I had on. All right, so this is how it looks at 100mm. Okay, I'll just bring it around a little bit for you. Magical scene. Now, let's zoom into 400mm. Let me show you what that looks like. So, we're recording. Let's zoom right into 400mm. Now we can pluck out little mini scenes within the landscape. Little vignettes like this here. Look at that. Look how pretty that looks. I've got to take a photo of that. You got to be quick when the light's moving like this. Zoom out a little. So the reason I love shooting with this lens is you can look around for ideas and you can go, what does that look like? And you can zoom right in on something. So it's great for just, you're scouting out subjects without having to walk. All right, a couple more shots. And then I think I'm just going to sit here and enjoy the scene. Look how pretty that looks. Oops. Every time I think I'm on video, I'm actually on stills. And every time I think I'm on stills, I'm on video. But that is beautiful. Look at that. How nice is that? Bloody beautiful. Yeah, I'm afraid I'm pretty biased. Maybe it's just the area where I shoot. I don't come across a lot of scenes where I want to get very close to my foreground and fit a lot into my scene. So I don't have a great deal of use for an ultra-wide. I mean, an ultra-wide is brilliant when the situation calls for it, but so many areas where the average person shoots just doesn't have the perfect combination of elements in a scene to warrant the use of something that's going to get all of it in. Typically, we are presented with a scene where, yeah, this little thing is nice and that bit's nice, and we have to walk up to it to photograph it. Then maybe we can use a wide lens, but I find it so good to be able to just grab the long lens and just sort of hone in on different elements, just pluck them out and photograph them from a distance. Speaking of which, I love this. Just the silvery tops on these little hills here, the way that the light is just, well, it's probably just the grasses on the tops of those hills. It's so pretty. They almost look like green waves. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to getting that taller tripod, because this thing, I mean, this is a great tripod. It probably doesn't help that I'm on grass at the moment. I mean, I have kind of jammed it in there, but I don't know, center columns, they're just, it's like this camera here that's sitting on this. I mean, this Peak Design tripod is really good. I don't know if the image stabilization is sort of dealing with this, but this center column on the Peak Design, as stiff and as beautiful as that tripod is, it can still wobble. When you get just a touch of light just hitting a hill and everything else is dark, it's so beautiful. I love it. I do love this. Otherwise, why the hell would I do it, huh? We do this because we love it. Hopefully, that's why we do it. That's certainly why I do it. Pardon me sniffing all the time. I've got hay fever now. It's spring. I've got to go blow my nose. Have I got tissues? Sorry about that. Okay, what else? Oh, that really is beautiful. I've got to take another one. Let me show you what I'm crapping on about here, because you're probably thinking, why is he so excited about that? That's what I'm excited about. How beautiful that looks. Let me zoom out a bit. Just the way the light is kissing that hill. It's so nice. I like that spine of trees on that hill. I think I might get that as well. God, having that much reach is so useful. If you don't have one, you have to get one. Oh, no, you don't. You don't have to get one. So nice. So peaceful here. I should stop talking, shouldn't I? I really should. All right, so that's it for this week's video. I'm not sure how useful it's been. Hopefully I've been able to cobble together something in this that is useful. I probably could have picked a better subject or a better area to illustrate the vast differences between an ultra-wide, a standard, and a telephoto zoom lens. But maybe it has its purposes. I mean, I guess when we walk up to a subject that suits a particular lens, we're not going to cycle through everything from 14 to 400 mil on that subject. Instead, what we're going to probably do is we'll be attracted to a subject, but then when we have a variety of lenses at our disposal or focal ranges at our disposal, we'll then actually explore other parts of the scene, some much further away, some closer. And so that's what the different focal lengths give you a chance to do. And I really believe that, you know, an ultra-wide zoom like a 14 to 35 or a 16 to 35, a medium telephoto like a 70 to 200. 70 to 200 is so useful. Or a 100 to 400, because there's not a great deal of difference between 70 mil and 100 mil. So I would recommend that you have something like a 14 to 35 or 16 to 35, and either a 70 to 200 or a 100 to 400. 100 to 400 I love. It'll probably come down to weight and cost. Obviously my 100 to 400 is not as fast as my 70 to 200. The beauty of the 70 to 200 is it's still light and compact, and it's a constant f4. So I would probably err towards that, and then you can always, you know, shoot at 200 mil and then crop in on something if you don't have enough reach. Regardless of which one you get in the telephoto zoom, I would definitely then augment that collection with a good fast prime, like a 50, like a 51.8, because the 50 is super versatile. It's a really good walk-around lens. This here was probably not a very good example of that, because the bulk of the interest in this scene here is far away. With the exception of that tree, most of it is far away. But in many other environments where you can walk around, like in a wooded area or in rolling hills or coastal especially, a 50 is brilliant, because you can get in very close, you can get very sharp, you can blur out your background. It's just such a good lens, and there really is something nice about producing images which very closely emulate how we saw it with our own eyes. We're so used to distorting our natural perspective with long lenses and wide lenses that when you shoot with a 50, it's actually really, really enjoyable, because when you get the photo, you think, yeah, that's exactly how I saw it, which is kind of nice. Anyway, that's it for me for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you're not subscribed, I'd certainly welcome you. And hopefully I'll see you again next week. Bye for now. Actually, before I go, you can tell a lot by which lens you put back on your camera, to put back in your camera bag, which is actually your favourite. And as much as I love the 100 to 400, and I'm always crapping on about it, I really do love the 70 to 200. It's just so versatile. And I love how short and stumpy it is. All right.